Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Mayor and City Council meeting Monday, December 8th, 2025. If you please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please show all council members present except for Councilmember Mead, who is currently in Hawaii, drumming it up with
Representing Taneytown at the
Little drummer boy.
pipes on parade. That's who he drums with. Yep. So he's over there in the Pearl Harbor parade is what he was doing, and he'll be back here soon. So up next, we have the approval of the minutes from November 19th, 2025. Or looking for a motion in regards to that?
proof.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns from council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Carries. Up next, would any council members like to make a statement regarding conflicts of interest on agenda items tonight? Hearing none, I am proceeding forward down to consideration review. Would any council member like a minute to review the Taneytown Police Department memo that is sitting on our desk?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yep, sounds good. We'll pause for about 3 minutes while you review that real quick. Just let me know when you're good. There's one thing that isn't in the memo, and that is the cost of that leave, and it's $2,518.56. $2,518.56.
And that would be in
It was like 14.8. Jim, just to check though, we've had about a $700 reduction from that previous one, right?
That is correct. Some of the leave was able to be utilized since we got the figures initially, so that actually goes down about $700.
Yep, from that number Wednesday, it went down 700.
that puts us at like 16.5-ish, give or take a couple $100.
In front of me here.
Yeah, it was like 14.8, so it's 14.1, I think. Yeah, okay, yeah, I got you now.
Ballpark, 16, 17 grand, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Need more additional time on that?
I'm good.
Sounds good. Proceeding, anybody else need additional time on the memo? Proceeding forward, resolution, ordinances, and agreements. Introduction, ordinance 22-2025, amendment to fences and walls. Again, this is the introduction on this. We talked about it last month. Again, bear with me. I'm a little under the weather. So we talked about it last month. The main thing here is we're taking out the permitting process on it. There's still regulations regarding to the fences. The idea is, if you're going to put in a fence, you still got to look that up. And yeah, so again, it still allows us to enforce if there's any crazy, wacky stuff that happens. But it doesn't mean that our guys are going out there, approving fences without the ability to actually check line of sights and whatnot. Looking for a motion in regards to that.
Introduce.
Yep.
Motion to introduce.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Carries. Jim, we're not doing adoption on the industrial, right?
Right, we would like to have a little more time to review that, and
So that'll be scrapped, and just so you guys are aware, that's going to have to go all the way back to introduction, since it's going past the 70-day mark. Unless somebody wants to make a motion.
I do have a question about it, though. What else are we considering? What do we need
They wanted to make adjustments on the actual business, what was allowed, right? And then
correct.
how it was structured in there.
And we've been having some conversations about data centers and battery energy storage systems. The second may tie into solar energy production more so than restricted industrial, but data centers, I think, are going to be something we need to think about. Now the code is, data centers weren't really prevalent when our code was last updated, at least when we looked at the restricted industrial district. So I think we need to take a look at that.
So you're thinking about allowing it and ways to allow it, correct?
If there are any
You wanna put
things out of the
parameters
ordinary
in there.
that we want to, but yes, I'm thinking we would, basically, it's a permitted use in the state, so we need to figure out where it best belongs.
Got it.
And I think that's it, but I just don't know, because they are often accompanied by energy storage systems, if there need to be any special criteria for them.
Okay.
And again, it's mainly in line with following what basically where the state's going with stuff.
Our planning director just shared an article from the American Planning Association with me today about data centers, so we'll kind of see if they have some best practices in there.
Any additional comments from council on that before I proceed? Hearing none, proceeding forward, city manager report. Jim, do you have anything additional for us?
Nothing to add this evening.
Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns, city manager report from council? Hearing none, proceeding to department reports. Jim, anything additional?
No, unless there are questions on the departmental reports.
Questions from council?
Nope.
Hearing none, proceeding forward. Old business, approval of revisions to general specifications for street and stormwater. Jim, yeah,
No update
nothing
there.
yet.
Yeah, hopefully we will have some discussion on street widths with our planning commission. They've had a rather full agenda and some busy meetings the last couple months, and we just haven't squeezed in that conversation about streets and what they really want, because I know we've had some back and forth at this level about what the ideal width for streets is, so.
Okay, questions from council? Heading down to welcome sign. Council, you guys should have received, and again, you would have received it before the workshop meeting, was some of the numbers of what those costs would look like for a regular sign and a sign with LED display. Again, just consider that. We'll add it to the agenda for January for kind of where council wants us to go from here on that. Consider that. Consider some of those examples that I think we sent those over last time, was the examples. So just consider the cost, consider the examples, and then just be thinking of where you want to go from here. If that's a cost you guys want to incur to put those signs out there, which level, what kind of level and what kind of design you want to go with. I ask us to have that ready for the January meeting so staff can start, going whichever direction council decides. I'd like to have the full council here when we go for that.
Yeah, do you want us to discuss that publicly, or do you want us to be, like kind of what our thoughts are, and then?
Start, my ask would be send feedback to us at the admin level so we can kind of be designing or tweaking, so when we come to the January meeting, we can have some examples of what everybody's looking for. So we're not just trying to do that mid-meeting. But again, the ask is, share that with admin staff so we can start preparing that. But the January will be that meeting where we're really going to be looking for direction on that. Any additional comments from council? Hearing none and proceeding forward to new business. Monthly financial report. Looking for a motion in regards to that.
Approve.
Looking for a second. Any additional comments, questions, concerns from council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries. Up next, account payables. Looking for a motion in regards to that.
Motion to approve.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns from council in regards to accounts payables? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries. Parking meters. Council, you should have received an update of the various different pricing models between the two examples that we have thus far, which is Frog Park and Exact Park. The city manager should have also, he sent out an email to kind of explain where it goes from here. There's some questions we got to get answered from SHA in regards to the whole process. But again, our ask on the admin level is between now and January, start thinking of which direction you would like to head. Take into account the cost of the two different systems, and each of you should have a, McKinsey's actually, you guys should have received at the workshop on Wednesday, but McKinsey's going to send out a digital version of those packets as well, so you guys can be reviewing them between now and January. So again, just make sure you're considering what those entail, the cost behind them, and again, if that's the way you guys want to go in regards to this. Any questions, comments, concerns from council that we should be considering?
Can you help me to understand the difference between the two real fast? I believe the 11X, is that the one that goes like directly into the concrete? Or is that the puck?
So Frog Park is the puck.
Park is the puck.
Jim, what is the
They,
exact
they
part?
both have surface mount
Yeah.
or recessed versions of their sensors. So we would be, because we're
We'd
in
have to do
an
the
area where
recessed.
it snows, we would have to do the recessed ones that are, I believe, epoxied in place. Obviously, we don't know yet if State Highway will even allow us to do that, since these are state roads. So they asked for a little bit of information, and I just sent them kind of the overview sheet from one of the ones that we had talked to. But the sensors are similar between the two. One of the firms, Frog Parking, seems to have more in-house ability as far as the software piece of it and the
Yeah, a bit
options
more
available
control.
there. Where the,
They're not
No.
local. They're I think actually centered at New Zealand, but they have United States bases as well. But again, they have more control over their software. Their actual subscription costs less unless you want the protection package, and then the other one, you're going to pay less in the upfront cost for the actual hardware, but you're going to pay more yearly in the subscription for the service. That's kind of the main difference between the two. Is one is going to be you have more control over kind of the software, the analytics that you're going to be looking at in one team. The other one is more, again, cheaper hardware side, but you're going to be paying for more of that service as a subscription kind of model.
in Wednesday's discussion, it was mentioned that, the primary objective is to generate turnover of vehicles so that after 2 hours, people will move their cars and not leave them parked there all day. The idea of a 2-hour limit, I think that would have been the takeaway, that people are expecting there to be a 2-hour limit, but both of these firms do have the ability to also do, pay for parking so that, the first 2 hours would be free, but you would pay for additional time after that. So it's not necessarily park 2 hours and then risk getting a ticket after 2 hours, unless that's what we decide we want the policy to be. So they have the ability to do 2 hours free, and then you pay for longer stays.
How do they actually do that? Is that something they do on their phone or
Yeah, it'd be
go to a website or what?
It would basically be an app for the whichever firm we went with.
I know there's a
Another
parking
thought-
garage in Baltimore that I
another
go to
thought
that you
that
have
I
to
had
scan a
was-
QR code, so it might be something like that too.
Is there a provision that would prevent somebody from parking for 2 hours, then backing up into the space behind them and for another 2 hours, and then moving back into the original place for the next 2 hours? I mean, how do you avoid that?
Technically not. I mean, that's the only loop. I mean, that is the loophole, the 2-hour free parking. You could continuously rotate it. It's actually, we have other ordinances in the city that are similar to that, such as, trailers, big trucks with trailers. You could park them for 1 hour on city streets, but technically you could go out there and move it, bring it back, and you could restart that timer. I guess it really depends on how motivated you are to retain that spot, as opposed to parking somewhere and leaving it be for 8 to 16 hours.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
But-
could see.
but that is a
I
loophole,
could
yes.
see a tenant from the downtown area, abusing that rather frequently. Why wouldn't they do that? I mean, you set your phone for an hour and 55 minutes and then come down and move into the place in front of you. And then another hour for 55 minutes, you back up to the one you just left.
Well, if parking is available to that extent, to where I can just go forward and go backwards and game the system that way, then
The point is,
what
there's
need is
never
there
any
for
lack of parking
curb
downtown.
management?
You could do that with,
I feel like
it
that's
would be a rare situation where somebody would be in front of you or behind you.
I feel like that's a very, it's a lot of work to have to go out there
It is a
every
lot of
2
work.
hours too. Like I get stuck doing stuff sometimes and I forget what time it is,
That's at that
especially
point,
with the work. It's a lot more effort than I think some people are willing to put in.
It would
Yeah,
just
I mean,
make more
you might
sense
have
to
somebody who's
park in
willing
a
to do that
municipal lot.
once, but like,
Yeah.
if someone's willing to do that every day,
They'd do it in a heartbeat, I guarantee you.
And it does vary
motivated then.
based on what stretch of the road you're on. I mean, certainly on West Baltimore Street, there's a lot more parking pressure during the workday. That there are very frequently parked cars in most of those spaces on West Baltimore Street. But then directly across the street from the city office, aside from the lunch period, typically there are very few cars parked, in that whole block. So, I think it really varies depending on how close you are to certain businesses. But there certainly are situations and times where somebody could come out and roll their car, one space forward and get another 2 hours.
And realistically, you could do that now if you have a handicap placard. You get free 4-hour parking. So let's say you park in a spot, you use, well, again, there's no way to really meter it currently unless you go digitally chalk it. But realistically, if you have a handicap placard right now, you could do the same thing. You put it up 4 hours, you roll back, come back into the spot 4 hours, have started again. So it isn't something you couldn't technically do right now if you had a handicap placard, for instance. But I would say your time efficiency is just going to be better parking in a regular municipal lot than coming down every 2 hours and moving it, especially if we're able to digitally monitor when you've hit that 2-hour mark. Because again, if we start putting tickets on cars at that 2-hour mark, it's going to become apparent real quick that it's just cheaper to go park in the municipal lot, walk that extra time, than trying to set a timer for every 2 hours. And again, nobody's going to do that. I couldn't imagine too many people wanting to go through that level of effort to retain that lot, but it's not impossible. I just, and again, to Nick's point, if you're able to, then the parking's available to begin with. So do you need the turnover if the parking's already available? Again, you can always game a system. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
you're never going to create a foolproof system here.
The only way to have a foolproof system would be to have like one, or at least one person literally monitoring all day, every day, walking the streets at the designated times, which I don't think is something that any of us would be okay with. I mean, maybe I'm wrong there, but I haven't heard any desire to have like a full-time meter made. So I think there's always going to be donut holes that aren't going to be able to be addressed.
And that's why you shouldn't just make a decision because somebody can exploit one part of it. I mean, at the end of the day, there's always a way. There's a way to exploit most things, even most of our ordinance currently. But you shouldn't try just because someone
We'll find a way.
can. So I mean, that's my only thing on that. Is that, to your point though? Yes, they could.
It is a donut hole. Be a lot of effort though.
But there's-
I mean, if they're willing to
I'd
go
be
through that
surprised.
effort,
Yeah, that's
on
kind of
you,
how I
man.
feel too. If you're gonna do that, okay. Like,
it's a lot
know
more
what
work
to tell
than
you.
I'm willing to put in.
There's no real alternative to that than just keeping meters and getting a meter made. That's
Yeah.
the only other alternative. And again, I don't think there's enough economic productivity that is generated by that to offset a full meter made. Again, I think this is kind of the closest you get to
Well,
the
and
best of all
you'd need more
worlds.
than one, because shifts and time off and all that stuff. So you're probably, if you're doing meter maids, you'd have to have at least 2, maybe 3. I don't think that's gonna happen.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns on parking meters? Hearing none, proceeding forward. CDM Smith, 2026 rate schedule. Jim, did you have anything else to add before I?
Nothing new. I think the memo in the packet sums it up.
Yeah, you just want a consensus or a motion on that?
I'd like a motion and vote, yes.
That's fine. Looking for a motion on CDM Smith 2026 rate schedule. Looking for a second.
Second.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns from council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Carries. Last up, we had it on the agenda for Wednesday, but we ended up taking it off. But this was submitted by the police department today as kind of another one-off special case that we currently have ongoing. I'll kind of read out the memo, what it says. On 11/12/2025, PFC Redcliffe Darby injured his knee. This injury was duty-related and was reported to workers' compensation. Before his injury occurred, he had requested 24 hours of personal leave and 48 hours of annual leave. These hours were approved and scheduled before his injury occurred. PFC Darby has been using sick leave since the time of this injury and will not be able to use his requested time off, subsequently resulting in him losing those hours at the end of the calendar year. It would be requested that the combined 72 hours of annual and personal leave be approved in a buyout situation since PFC Darby is unable to use this time by the end of 2025, and just add due to an injury that occurred at work, or a duty-related injury, I should say.
He's okay?
Yeah, he's got to get surgery on, is it his knee? Yeah, it's his knee. So he'll be out for a good minute when all that occurs. But again, the idea is he did have the leave scheduled. He did anticipate to use it. He just can't because of his current situation. This is a recommendation from the chief, the major, from the police department. I support it in regards to, again, this is a injury that was related to duty, and there's no viable way for him to use this leave before he loses it. Additional comments and questions from council before I... did we get a consensus or was it a motion last time, Jim? It might have been a motion. Yeah, it was a motion. Questions, comments, concerns from council before I entertain a motion?
Since he requested time off before his injury, why wouldn't we count the time off as his paid leave and not count it as sick leave? It just makes sense that you'd use your leave up first and then go into sick leave if you ran out of time off.
If I'm remembering
Don't you always use your time off before you get your sick leave? Most people don't even have sick leave anymore. They just have a certain number of days they have off, and they can use it for anything they want. It's kind of outmoded in this day and age to assign sick leave to employees where it's just part of their normal routine as being time off, whether it's sick leave or vacation, doesn't make any difference. They have X number of days to take advantage of, and that's what they should use. I don't think you pay somebody for sick leave, then pay them for vacation they didn't take because they were getting paid for sick leave. Does that make any sense?
So in this scenario, for instance, and again, I could be misremembering, but I thought workers' compensation, I thought you use sick leave before you even get to personal leave, but I could be misremembering. I know for the feds, Rachel, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought you use sick leave before.
So if I was to go out when I go out for my surgery and before I can utilize any type of leave programs that they have, I have to use all my sick leave.
Yeah, so normally, I would argue for most governments, you do have to use the sick leave first, especially if it's related to a injury from duty. So I think in that regards, if he has the sick leave to cover the days and he's on workers' compensation, then again, it's kind of that unique scenario where he did have it scheduled, but he doesn't have to. We can't force him to use that personal leave instead of his sick leave, for instance.
I mean, they're
right?
different banks of benefits.
They are.
The way that I understand and view this. Like, you have sick leave, you have workers' comp, you have personal leave. They're all supposed to be used for different purposes, and doesn't fall into any of those purposes, so therefore, he still is entitled to have his personal time off, and if he's not able to take that, then why we're in the situation that we're in. So, I mean, he's, in my mind, entitled to the compensation because it's a different bank, a different bucket of a different benefit bucket, I think is what I'm.
And you're correct in that regard. Again, it's a different benefit. Does it make sense for him to have to use his personal leave in regards to an injury sustained on duty while going through workers' comp? My argument would be no. I would, again, argue just for, in the best practices, I will say, I think the payout is the best practice.
That's a human resource disaster in my mind,
Yeah.
to do something like that to somebody.
I agree.
Like, why would you want to work for a place that's going to screw you, right? Like, that's something that I think we need to think more deeply about, right? Like, I don't want anybody to be working for the city government knowing that we're gonna be out to screw them over $2,500.
And it's kind of one of those things, we don't pay people the best, but the one thing we can do is try to make sure we're taking care of our people in the best way that we're able to. Regardless, this is leave that he has earned. He doesn't have to take his personal leave in lieu of using his sick leave for the workers' comp and
Didn't
duty-related
happen in the line
injury.
of duty, man. Like,
Yeah. With that said, I'm gonna look for a motion in regards to it.
Approve.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Additional comments, questions, concerns from council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Carries. Up next, we have councilmember reports, starting with councilmember. I'm gonna do it.
Roosevelt.
Kalanock. There we go, okay.
Okay, I think you finally got it right. Nice. So let's see, we had the annual candy cane hunt and Christmas tree lighting this Saturday, and there was a good turnout despite the chilly temps. This was the last in-person event of the year for Parks and Rec. We do still have the holiday decorating contest open, though. The registration deadline is this Thursday, the 12th, so if anybody's interested in entering, please reach out to Lorena by Thursday. Some prizes include gift cards to a local business of the winner's choice. First place gets $100, second place gets $75, and third gets $50. Winners will all be announced on January 5th. And then early next month, we will be releasing a community survey on parks and recreation. We encourage everybody to take a few moments to take the survey and provide feedback and suggestions so that the Parks and Recs Department and the city can be better informed as we move forward in planning facilities, amenities, events, and programs for our community. And there is no new update on the Memorial Park expansion project. They're still waiting on state highway and the county forest conservation approvals, so.
Councilmember Miller.
On November 3rd, all active officers completed fall firearms training. And for specialized training, we have Officer Dakota Myers attended AR-15 and M4 armor course on November 5th and 6th, and this allows him to this certified him to diagnose and fix problems that may be encountered with duty-issued rifles. And then Officer Zach Myers completed youth mental health first aid on November 13th, and this is an online course provided by the National Tactical Officers Association, and it's designed to educate attendees about how to identify, understand, or respond to an adolescent who may be experiencing a mental health or substance use challenge. And then for statistical report, total dispatched or generated calls for service was 417. Total citations issued, 64. Total warnings issued, 85. Total adult arrest, 14. And total juvenile arrest was 6. But in terms of awards, promotions, we had Officer Jordan Longo, who graduated from the Baltimore County Police Academy on November 13th. Officer Longo completed the academy, finishing first in his class, so that was a really big deal, beating out all the Baltimore County cops or recruits. It was pretty neat to attend and witness the whole ceremony aspect of it. Me and the mayor are glad to be part of that. And then for community outreach, Chief Baker and Major Mitchell attended the Veterans Day ceremony that was held on November 11th at the American Legion. That's about it.
I'll try to fill in for Councilmember Meade. From what I can remember, I don't have my packet in front of me. So Planning and Zoning approved the concept designs for Taco Bell and McDonald's. In addition to that, the comp plan is still ongoing. They said that one of their more productive meetings this November. In January, they will be taking comment from people who have received letters in regards to the growth area, if I'm remembering correctly. When's their meeting in January on that? I won't put you on the spot like that, but it's later in the month. So, keep an eye out on social media, keep an eye out on the calendar for the website. Make sure if you're interested in that comprehensive plan, what's happening in Taneytown, make sure you attend that. And again, if you received a letter regarding your property being within the growth area, again, that will be your time to speak on it.
Should be January 20th.
January 20th will be that comp plan. In addition, me and Councilmember Mead on January 10th will be at the Taneytown Library holding a table talks with the council and mayor, and we'll be discussing planning and zoning as well as the comp plan and what's going on with that. So if you're interested, that'll be starting at 10 a.m. at the Taneytown Library on January 10th. Everyone's welcome to attend. The talks don't have to be particularly just planning and zoning. It could be anything Taneytown related, and we welcome everybody to come out for that. That's all I got. Jim, was there anything else I should mention for his stuff?
I think that's the highlights.
That's the highlights. Councilmember McCarron.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to meet with Kevin and Randy last week, and they brought me up to date on things going on in the Department of Public Works, and everything seems to be going pretty well. As suspected, the water levels in the wells have stabilized despite the lack of any significant rain. The fact that folks aren't washing cars and watering lawns has seemed to have allowed us to slow down the pumping rates that we were concerned about earlier in the year. The Arrow, who is inspecting the lead line service inventory for our town, is about to get started on installing new service lines, and one of the concerns was that our code called for copper lines to go to the houses, and we've been able to correct that and use plastic lines at a lot less expense. So that's a good thing for our citizens. Watering project finally has come to an end. I don't know how long that's been going on, but it looks like we're finally over that hump. Other than concerns for the building project, we talked about the new utility building, and the desire to maybe build it in stages rather than try to build it all at once and then years make additions, and thinking that the overall cost of the project would be mitigated if we did that, and it sounded like a good plan to me. So that's I think Kevin and Randy support that. So they were very positive about the way things were going. We had a termination in that department recently that was a little bit tough for guys to handle, because we don't have too many terminations. We started counting up the hours and the years of service in that department, and it's overwhelming. A lot of people with 20 and 30 years service in that department. Kevin's just celebrated 25, and I think Randy's 18. It's good to have stable employees, and the success of our town and over the years can be directly attributed to the stable workforce that we've had. So that's real positive, and anybody that's an employee or anybody that's in a business with other folks helping them with that business knows that. So it's good to see that department is seems to be stable and moving forward. So proud to be associated with them.
250th? You got anything for 250th?
Oh, 250th. Let me give you a little bit of information on that. We met at the library with the county 250th birthday celebration last week. And there was Bob Jones and but we had a good conversation. There's a lot going on countywide and locally. I was very proud of the progress that we were making. We've got a celebration day scheduled for the 6th of June, and we really have a lot going on in that the latter part of May and first part of June into July. And I'm concerned about that a little bit. We get too much on the plate, we may not be. We've got a Memorial Day parade scheduled. We've got this event on the 6th of June. There's
A run,
a
right?
parade on the 4th.
Isn't there like a 5K or something?
And there's a 5K in between there, so that's the weekend effort, and the wine and art festival. So, you know, within that 6-8 week period, we've got a bunch of stuff. So we'd probably need to take a look at that and see if we're biting off more than we can chew right there.
No, I agree with you. That's been my only worry is, you know, don't go too grand to where we can't do all the stuff that we, you know, need to do.
That's true, but again, we've got a lot of good ideas going on. We're working in cooperation with the museum. We're working in cooperation with the historical society. We're working in cooperation with the town and the state. And everybody's talking. Everybody's sharing plans. Everybody's working together. Bob's developed a program where he'll be able to identify important people, important points of interest around town by going on our website and our phone app and plugging in information and being able to come up with historic information for various addresses. So there's a lot of neat things happening, and it's a big job, but it's kind of coming together. I was wondering in the first couple meetings whether we were going to.
Jim, I just want to touch on one thing, DPW building design. The last I remember from council was to halt further changes to the design other than the original concept that had been done.
We haven't spent any more money on it. But that was the direction, was not to spend any more money on the design.
It is, staff time is money though.
Okay.
Again,
Horton has scaled back the building, getting rid of all but I guess the essential shop portion of the building, getting rid of the training room and things like that. So,
that's my
but
thing.
certainly if you,
Don't circumvent direction from
Okay.
council.
all right.
Other than that, I am looking for a motion of adjournment. Looking for a second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.